My name is Zipi. I come from Israel. Slowly I started teaching Iyengar yoga. And I started with wounded soldiers who are completely maimed for the rest of their lives. People who are maimed from either car accidents or birth or whatever. Until one day they come and approach me and ask me, would you please teach yoga in jail? So I went in there and I went to the worst wing, killers, murderers, rapists, and so on and so forth. So much so that in the room there were guards with guns who didn't want to leave me alone there, being afraid that I will get myself hurt. And I said, no. This is yoga, Iyengar yoga, you all stay outside. Don't you come inside. The waiting list within 6 months was of 100 people, which in jail never happened. They had other courses, they didn't have attendance.
The connection between the prison and the yoga, it's supposed to be very natural, because when you learn yoga, you learn to control yourself, you learn to be very quiet with yourself, you learn to be more yourself from outside, and it's a blessing for every prisoner to learn yoga. Most of the people that learn want to change their life, want a line in their life. And yoga gives quality of physical life and quality of thinking life. From everything that you do, you're more balanced. With your thinking, with your walking, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, you have balance that you don't have before.
One of the wars in Israel, I myself was a soldier, and we blew up on a landmine, and I was very, very seriously wounded. And I was in hospital for 8 months. I was nearly 20 years old, and my whole life was in front of me, but in a way it was over for me. And the prognosis was very bad. When I left the hospital, the doctor said, a few years later you will be paralyzed. In America, I met Iyengar yoga. To start with, I did Iyengar yoga as an exercise. Then 5 years later, we had a very nice, beautiful convention in Harvard. And there our beloved Guruji was there. And as soon as he saw me in the middle of a big group of people, and nobody knew who he was talking to, he said, this is a medical case. Then he comes over to me. From the back, he's got this big hand, twisted my hips. My pain is gone. 15 years constant sitting, lying, sleeping, eating, everything, I have pain. He just did some adjustment, the pain is gone. And I'm in Trikonasana. 45 minutes I'm in Trikonasana, no pain. I could not believe it. I was like, he says to me, you better come to Pune or you will be paralyzed. You come to medical class. First medical class. This Guru, and I am very, I was resisting terrible. Very, very European, very Americanized. And he's working on me, hitting me. First I break you. I go, what's he going to break? Everything is broken. So what he wanted to break was not my body. He knows it's broken. My resistance.
9 years ago, I was injured working underwater in Tel Aviv Marina. I slipped a couple of discs, and it was an excruciating pain, and I lost my job, and I couldn't walk for 6 months. I was like limping. I had acute pain shooting down my leg. None of the doctors or the alternative medicine did me any good. And I became a sort of idle and bitter man. Lucky for me, a good friend of mine brought me over to Zipi's Institute, where I found out everything about Iyengar yoga. And I just kept on practicing his wonderful yoga, and it changed my life 180 degrees. I kept on attending classes, and gradually I started assisting Zipi in medical classes and then regular classes. And right now I'm doing my first steps as becoming a teacher.
I came to yoga, like I told you before, during chemotherapy, and after a few cancers, I was very, I was into pieces. I was very weak. I was very sad. I felt I didn't have a lot of powers to struggle all this, and it was very progressively. I started getting strength.
When Gilly came first, she was very, very weak. She was lifeless. She had no hair. The color of the face, the vitality in the eyes was gone. She was terribly, terribly traumatic after a very, very, very tough experiences, many experiences. I made her work very hard. First of all, we did restorative poses because she was very weak, and slowly the restorative poses became stronger and stronger. And we went according to Guruji's restorative post-cancer, breast cancer surgery work. And I know she'll be fine. She'll be wonderful.
Man, I think that is a try for the Bulldogs. You concentrate on the man with the ball, and he may have been telling the player inside to take him, but he had the opportunity to come in on Kalau and make the tackle.
I thought it was rather an exciting concept to be able to take Mr. Iyengar's yoga out into that area of sport, particularly.
A lot of the guys thought it was the more of the when I mentioned the yoga to start with, they didn't understand the flexibility side of it. They thought it was more into the praying and the that side of it. So Carol concentrates just on the flexibility, and we find it to be quite beneficial.
Really concentrate on taking your heels firmly towards the floor, and then press strongly back into the heels. Good. Breathe. Remember to breathe. That's better. That's better. Swing your chest to your legs, and then exhale. Just let your heads hang. Don't hold your heads up. The strap so you've got longer arms. You should be actually holding your foot with this, but in the left leg, thigh muscle really hard.
We do a lot of strength training, and that sometimes makes you feel a lot tighter, especially in your back and your pelvis region. So we work a lot on that region here. Thought it was probably more spiritual than the stretching side of things, but once I started doing it, it was more specific for us. We a lot of exercises that really help our joints.
With the huge amount of impact in our game, it's beneficial for the guys to be working on their flexibility as well. So, you put the running and the weight training, and you incorporate the yoga as probably the opposite side to the explosive stuff. A lot of the guys were found the amount of injuries that they were getting has been cut down because of their greater flexibility and stuff like that. So it's been good for us.
They are professionals, and their living is earned by playing football. So you do have to, as I say, just stand back a little, because you can't allow them to think that maybe a strain has come through yoga.
Going out to the right. And
they are merchandised from the point of view that they have to be able to go on the field fit And so I tend to be very conservative, I think, more than anything, with my approach to their classes.
I had a lot of hamstring troubles, and I've had a bad knee, like a knee reconstruction, and since I've been coming here, I haven't really had any hamstring troubles from the stretching that we've been doing, and my flexibility's improved.
This will be our third year of being into it now, and what we do is most of the guys, we've got 24 full-time professionals. Most of the guys get to do it at least once every 3 weeks with Carol, and as time's gone by, I think they've seen the benefits of it, and they're taken to it quite well.
As I said, Billy and I were doing it by ourselves anyway. We used to, and now that they've got it incorporated in with the training, it makes it a lot easier for us, yeah.
We had a few players that had been quite badly injured, and one in particular had the thought of having a disc removed and a laminectomy. So he came on a one-to-one basis, and over a period of about 6 months worked with the props and with Guruji's sequences for bad backs, and it proved very positive. And he's 5 years later down the track, he's still playing first grade football, so he's very pleased with that as well.
That's good.
First time.
Because I'm that close to dodgy.
Everybody seems to be sore at some stage of the week through either hard training or a hard game, and it's a good release. And I think it's really helped me last year in playing all season without any problems in the lower back or hamstring area. So I do put yoga down as a part of that success, yeah.
And I think that's where Guruji's yoga is so wonderful, that it can be so diverse that it could be taken to players who have such stiffness in their bodies and such restrictions in their bodies that they can actually feel good about what they're doing.
See you later, Joel Kerr. Great try from the second rower.
Through the movement of martial art, we would like to learn the fluid of the nature, like water flowing. In the martial art, it like resembles the nature, our own nature, and the nature of the universe. But nowadays, many practitioners lost the essence of martial art. That's why it is so easy to develop our fighting techniques, but it's not easy to find out the essence of sadhana in the martial art. And I found that I can approach martial art as a sadhana after learning yoga under the Guruji through the practice of yoga asanas and pranayamas. I learned how can I control my balance of body and mind, and I found that there are some similarity in the movement of martial art and yoga asanas. For example, Virabhas trees help us to keep our balance and it increase our power in side kicking. After practice yoga, naturally I can understand what is the correct pose and what is the wrong pose. For 5 countries, people like Chinese and Korean and Japanese have short arm and short legs comparing with Western people and Indian people. So while performing some yoga asanas, we have some difficulties. So by using these instruments, we can lengthen our legs, we can lengthen our arms.
Hello, I'm Denise Johnson, president of the Yoga Group. We're a nonprofit corporation located in Colorado in the United States. The Yoga Group has taught free yoga classes to people living with AIDS since 1988. We teach our classes in the method of BKS Iyengar, Guruji, our Guruji, a world-renowned yoga teacher. We have now registered probably 150 HIV-positive students, and they're coming to many coming to our classes.
Now, to come out of the pose, if you're on the block, bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, inhale, and lift.
Teaching the yoga group classes is actually an extraordinary experience for me. I teach a lot of regular classes, but to be working with these people who are coming in with a really specific condition and to be using the tools that Guruji has given us that will really help them is very rewarding for me, because sometimes they walk in dragging, barely able to lift their heads up, and when they leave, at the very least, there's a sense of ease and relaxation. And I think also they're more committed. They work very hard because they know how important it is to them, because their life is on the line, and so they're very attentive and they're very committed. And so as a teacher, it's sort of the ideal situation. I mean, they're funny. They crack a lot of jokes, but they're very, very committed people.
Some of these students have stayed with our classes for several years, and Guruji's teachings have had a profound effect on their lives in many ways. Here with me today is one of the yoga group's longtime students, Steve McSeany. Well, first of all, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about you personally? How old you are, where you're from, something about your work.
Okay. I'm 42 years old, and I was born back in Washington, D.C., and I've lived in Colorado now for 25 years. And I'm a psychologist, and I work with families, couples, and individuals on their various struggles in life.
What do you share with us, actually, when you first discovered that you were HIV positive?
I found out in the fall of 1985. That's when I tested positive. And of course, it was pretty devastating. Since I was first diagnosed, was to reevaluate every 6 months or a year, what do I need to do for my healing? What do I need? What's the next step? These are the medications that fight the virus in my body in terms of medicine. And they are effective to keep the virus from spreading, but they cause a lot of immediate side effects and probably long-term side effects to major organs like the liver or the kidney. And so that's why yoga, Iyengar yoga, has become so important. And certain poses seem to help me maintain a balance in my emotional state. For instance, the back bends, I think, really help me with depression and anxiety. The inversions help with everything, actually. You know, they boost the immune system, they lift my spirits, they help me feel strong. This is when I was preparing, packing to go to Gabriella Jubilaro's intensive in Italy last summer of '98. I decided to lay out my medications for 19 days. And so instead of taking all the jars, and I just laid them all out, and this is what it looked like.
Guruji's teachings have had a powerful impact on my life. And I know that Iyengar Yoga has been a tremendous help to those who are living and coping on a daily basis with this virus. To find out more about yoga poses for HIV, visit our website at www.yogagroup.org.
I was a yoga student of Guruji from 1968. So it's 31 years that I am teaching yoga. Way back in June 81. And by the time I got set here, I met a guy who was on the streets. For 2 years, he was sober but still on the streets. And he said, why don't we have something for drug addicts and alcoholics who have now reformed? So it all began here at the back of the church. We got an annex in which we brought people from the streets and helped them to learn how to get back to life. Bombay was a central place for all patients. What began here had to go to other areas, and so we shifted to Vasai. And so my own vision of healing had a double aspect. The aspect of the psychosocial aspect of the 12-step program, the self-help program, but integrated into it was the yogic dimension.
Yoga has been a part of treatment motive for chemical dependency and kripa. Yoga is playing a really vital role because kripa is a combination of Western principles and Eastern discipline.
नशे की वजह से मेरे को जो प्रॉब्लम हुआ है शारीरिक, वो जो है मेरे को आदत थी इंजेक्शन लेने की नशे की, तो उस वजह से हुआ यूँ कि निडल शेयर करना, वही गंदी सिरिंज इस्तेमाल करना, उसकी वजह से मेरे को प्रॉब्लम हो गया। वो है HIV पॉजिटिव। जब मेरा टेस्ट हो गया तो मुझे मालूम गिरा कि मैं HIV पॉजिटिव हूँ, तो मेरे को काफ़ी कुछ धक्का लगा। जब मैं कृपा फाउंडेशन में ट्रीटमेंट के लिए आया तो मेरी दिमाग की हालत बहुत ही खराब थी और मेरी शारीरिक की हालत इस कदर कमज़ोर थी कि मैं ठीक तरह से चल नहीं पा रहा था। इंजेक्शन लेने की वजह से मेरे नर्व्स जो थे काफ़ी कुछ डैमेज हो गए थे। फिर यहाँ पे जो योगा में सीखा, तो पहले तो कुछ ऐसे पोस्चर्स है जैसे कि पद्मासन। पद्मासन तो पहले मेरे को बहुत तकलीफ हो गई पद्मासन करने के लिए, क्योंकि मेरे घुटने बेंड नहीं होने के, मेरे एंकल्स बेंड नहीं होने के। मगर मैंने कोशिश जैसे जारी रखी तो आस्ते आस्ते मैं वो कर सका। उस पद्मासन की वजह से मेरे पूरे बॉडी को रिलीफ मिलने लगा, जैसे कि पीठ, चेस्ट, थाइज, जॉइंट्स, मेरे ये सब जो मेरे कमजोर हो गए थे, उठने बैठने के वक्त जो आवाज आने की एक हड्डियों की, वो इस आसन की वजह से बहुत ही कम हो गई।
When we are addressing immunodeficiency ailments such as HIV/AIDS, we are looking at strengthening the immune system and stabilizing the condition of CD4. So we have achieved tremendous success when we are asking them to do these kind of back bends, where the head moves backwards in a very intense way. The body is made to open up so that the thymus gets honored in a very special way for the HIV condition, and even for those who are moving into a full-blown AIDS condition. Is this device that Guruji has given us, where you sit in the chair or a reclining board, you sit inside, get your legs into Padmasana, lotus pose, And then maintaining that, slowly go into a back bend position. Then slowly rise. Gradually come up. The more you stay in this posture, the more you realize the effect, particularly on the area of the section organ where there is unnecessary continuous discharge. That is curbed and it gets dried. And that's the sign of a healing that has taken place within. There's another posture in which one has to put an HIV-infected person who is not very advanced. A Setubadha Sarvangasana, horizontal position, where you work directly on the cardiorespiratory system to awaken, to strengthen the three major systems: the immune system, the endocrine system, and the nervous system. All of us, when we go and we take our checkup, our CD4 count, CD8 counts, are, in spite of 8-10 years, no problem. In fact, reversal, increase, better CD4 count. This is what we should all aim at.
Alcoholism or addiction, of course, the medical association thinks that it is an incurable disease. But through yoga, I'm not sure, I'm not saying that the yoga can cure addiction, but through yoga I can maintain my sobriety.
Bottom groin of the right should go first to the ground, whereas you are all moving from the top. Come up straight leg.
My name is Susana, and I come from Madrid. And well, I'm going to speak about how yoga has helped me in my life, how I've improved. Well, I've always been a very ill-willed person and very insecure. And now yoga has helped me to try to obtain the goals I'm reaching for. Before I was yes, this, yes, no. I was every now and then having doubts about everything, very shy. Now I try not to be so shy. I'm still very shy, but now I know I'm shy, and I'm trying not to be so, and to be more secure. And as practice always tells me, to open my chest and say, here I am.
We are very happy to tell you that now in all European countries, Iyengar Yoga is taught in all major countries of Europe, in all major cities. In all over the geography of Spain, from the Galicia, from the northwest of Spain, in Vigo, then in Asturias in the north, in Bilbao in the north, Pamplona in the north also. I'm covering the north frame of Spain, and then in Catalonia, in Barcelona, in Sabadell. Then if we go to the eastern coast, Valencia, in Carcassonne, then you go to Andalusia, Malaga, Granada, then you go also from the west side, you have in Cáceres also students coming from there. In the center also in León and in Madrid are many students who are, many now teachers, we are teaching also. All the geography of Spain has been covered now.
Hola, soy Elena Arasa, la directora del Servicio de Deportes de la Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. Es el hecho que en épocas de exámenes, por ejemplo, en otras actividades fluctúa el número, puesto que la gente muchas veces solo aparece por el campus para realizar los exámenes. Y sin embargo, con el yoga Iyengar parece ser que es un elemento importante durante esas fechas para compensar las tensiones.
the mind, yoga sees it very different from the Western schools. In the Western schools of philosophy, the mind is seen a little bit like an object. But yoga sees the mind more as a process, as an ongoing process, like a wave. So, in order to see and study what is hidden behind the phenomena of the world, I came to the texts which are most commonly used in the West. I came to the great German philosopher. I came to Kant. I studied Kant, and I studied also Hegel. And I became aware of one thing, that the limits of the brain in the understanding of the ultimate realities are very strong. Kant itself says you cannot go beyond the capacities of the brain. And slowly, I came to understand that maybe the answer is inside, and yoga helped me to have some ideas about this. The faith which I was having in my childhood came to the surface again. ¿En qué ha cambiado en tu relación, en tu comprensión de lo que es la relación con las personas, entre las personas, es lo que quieres?
Yo recuerdo, antes de empezar a practicar yoga, que mi relación con otras personas, yo mismo notaba, y cuando no lo notaba yo, me lo decían las personas allegadas, que era muy de siempre querer hacer lo que yo decidía y que los demás hicieran lo que yo decidía. En ese aspecto yo noto que he cambiado grandemente y que soy mucho más abierto, mucho más cordial y mucho más amable.
Me llamo Olga Jiménez y soy de Madrid. Pues cuando comencé a practicar, muy al principio, la verdad es que yo al principio no sentía nada especial. Pues me gustaba, me sentía bien, salía de las clases muy a gusto y bueno, pues aunque me dolía, pero sentía como necesidad de que eso era bueno, sentía que eso me venía muy bien. Pero a medida que fui practicando, también te das cuenta no solamente de los dolores que tienes en el cuerpo, de los acortamientos de los músculos, sino que te das cuenta de tu forma de ser yo era muy seria, yo era muy hacia mí y era triste. Y de hecho yo tengo fotos de más pequeña y tenía cara triste y ahora cada vez me siento más feliz.
According to the philosophy of yoga, as I understand through Guruji's teaching, our life is a type of ongoing challenge between our hearts and our brain. Each moment of our life a type of hesitation, to do this or to do that. That means that we are hanging between the logic of our brain and the illogic of our heart. But through the practice of the yoga, this hesitation goes away. Now you are feeling? Yes. You get a power of decision which is fast, which is right.
Maybe this is the reason for which when you are feeling these transformations also, you don't hesitate and you go through. And maybe also what you are telling implies a capacity of the people, especially the young people who come to practice in the universities, that they can put a question mark in their lives without any fear.
I'm very insecure of myself. That's why I'm practicing yoga to discover why am I this way, why do I behave like this. This is very personal, but well, I'm going to tell it. I had eating disorders, and now I'm getting much better. I'm nearly cured. I started being anorexic, and then I turned into bulimia. That's why everybody tells me I'm beautiful, I'm very kind, but I don't know why I don't feel that way. So I don't know, maybe someday I'll say, yes, I'm Susanna, here I am.